Life is precious. I think we would all agree. But often we find that we take the very things that we do every day in life for granted until something happens in a blink of an eye. Hello, I'm Tom Russo, and this is In a Blink of an Eye, where we discuss stories from ordinary people whose lives are changed in an instant and how they overcame through faith, courage, and determination. Join me on this podcast for uplifting stories of how people face various challenges and learn to not only survive, but thrive. In a Blink of an Eye is sponsored by TradingCardsMarketplace.com. Discover, connect, and collect. That's TradingCardsMarketplace.com. Now, folks, I am really excited to introduce to you Art Kyriazis. I said it right, right? Ah, God, I've had so many practice turns now that I think I'm getting it right. Like you said, I think you need to buy a vowel or something. It's it's kind of crazy. So I am honored to have Art with us. Art is one of the most intellectually interesting men I have ever met in my entire life. He has a incredible background and everything, just about. You name it, he's done it. But I'm going to let him tell you his story, and then we'll dive into his blink of an eye moment. Art, tell me a little bit about it.
Well, my story actually started on this day, January 20th, 1957, when my parents were married in Philadelphia. Then my dad took a teaching job in Greece. I was born in Greece while he was teaching medicine there. Then about 3 years later, he took another teaching job at the University of Pennsylvania. My parents moved back to America. Then he continued to teach, and he opened a big clinical and surgical practice. He became very successful. My mom renewed her teaching career after my younger brother was born. And she taught at the school district of Philadelphia for many, many years. So I had two excellent parents. I also lived with my three grandparents, my two grandmothers, and my grandfather. I was raised in a religious household. We went to church every Sunday, and that was very much to my benefit. My grandfather was a cantor in the church for many, many, many years. And I always had to sit right at the front of the church with my grandmother.
Boy, you had to pay attention then, didn't you?
Imbued with the religion, yes, that was good for me actually. And I liked the priest. He's a very nice man, Father Andrews. Anyway, so I went to I was given the opportunity to go to private school. And that was a blessing. I made a lot of friends there. In fact, this year I'm going to be on the 50th anniversary reunion committee for that school, and see a lot of old friends. Hopefully they're alive and well. And it's as they say, a long, strange trip it's been.
Quoting the Grateful Dead?
Ride, a wonderful ride. I got to say, my life's been blessed. Anyway, after school, I was able to go to a good Ivy League college. Studied different subjects there, government, economics.
You're a Harvard man, aren't you?
Yeah, Harvard. Yes, I actually, the story goes, I wanted to go to Yale, but Harvard let me in at the last minute, and I had a tough choice, and I decided to go to Harvard at the last minute. But I had an older cousin who was at Yale, who became a famous heart surgeon, and he really wanted me to go to Yale. So it was a tougher choice than you might think for me. I know most people think Harvard, all the way, but I actually was interested in Yale. So anyway, that was a long time ago. Harvard was great. I had a good time there. I really studied a lot. Got deep into the books. I wrote a senior thesis. I had a a magna cum laude grade on that, and it was very long, tedious, and boring to read.
Aren't most of them, though, really, truthfully?
I decided to go to law school after about a year. I was also interested in foreign service. And, I actually was recruited by a guy from the CIA wanted to recruit me coming out of college. Genuine spook guy. It's a true story. And, but I probably should have taken up his offer.
How do we know that you didn't?
Really? No, I did work for him for 2 years, undergrad, and right after college. I did research for him on the Ayatollah. And, this guy was great. I mean, he was smooth as silk. And if you Google him, you can't find anything about him.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah, his record's been cleaned out by you know who. Anyway, great guy. I just loved him. He gave me an A in the class and beautiful letter of recommendation for law school. So I went to law school, did very well there, actually. I was a good law student, married a beautiful girl that I met in law school. And we got married in '86, I think, and we're coming up on our 40th anniversary.
Well, congratulations. You've got me beat by 2 years. We're coming up on our 38th this year. So so it's a true blessing. I met my future wife when I was a senior in high school. So pretty cool. Pretty cool.
You know what? If you find a good woman, you find a good wife. It's like the Bible says, it's like a value above jewels and pearls. It is the greatest thing, and my life's been invaluably enriched. We didn't have kids right away, but eventually we did have kids. So we had a daughter first, and then we had twin sons about 3 years later. They're all flourishing. They're grown up now. And our daughter is married. She married a very nice boy who's into computers, and he's from Jersey, went to Rutgers. His parents are Rutgers academics. He's into computers. He's doing great. Our daughter's a public health consultant. She works for Philadelphia. Was a consulting firm. And our sons are, one is a finance guy. He's at Vanguard. The other's an engineer, and he's working at a good engineering firm. So all of them really doing well. And all of them live in Philadelphia because they don't want to be away from their mom. My wife is very successful as an in-house counsel. She's general counsel and vice president of a housing authority. And she's generally recognized as an expert in public housing. And she belongs to a number of different groups. She's also a philanthropist. She was a former president of our local Rotary Club, and she's got me involved.
Well, it's a shame that you guys aren't successful at anything. It's really sad. That's sarcasm.
Well, you know what? I was rabid in hair. I was very successful early on. And then as time went on, my wife really passed me like big time. She knows all the local politicians, congresswomen, judges, you name it, she knows them all. In the early days, my uncle was the judge, and I knew everybody. And now he's retired. He's in Florida, and all the people that are worth knowing, she knows. So now I'm just Maria's husband, and Sandra's father.
Well, I can empathize with all of that because my wife is the real smart one in the family as a clinical pharmacist as well. So I get it. Yeah, I get it. I understand. So something that I want to share with the audience, Art and I ran across each other many, many years ago on LinkedIn. and I was so impressed with his resume that I saw on LinkedIn, and we started visiting and sharing comments back and forth, and then we became Facebook friends doing the same thing on Facebook, and ultimately I reached out and we started talking about this. This is actually the first time I've actually laid eyes on Art. Now, we've talked on the phone a couple of times, and we've had a couple of technical glitches today trying to get this going back and forth. In fact, we're kind of piecemealing this together as well, but I'm hoping that my audience won't be able to see and it will be seamless for them. But Art, one of the things that fascinates me about you is your Walter Mitty sense. It seems to me that you have been a little bit of everything. I mean, you've been an athlete. I know you played lacrosse. I know you had a debate background. I know you were a lawyer. You've written many, many different things in different journals on different topics. You have some biology background, some genetics, I believe, background.
I took a master's at Penn. I was in the first master's of biotechnology program. I'm going to talk a little bit about that when I talk about my blink of an eye moment. But I had the notion that I wanted to have specialize within law, and so I went and got a master's in biotech. It was a 2-year program, and I started in '98 at Penn. I was in the very first biotech master's program I never offered, and I had a biology minor at Harvard. I took biology first semester. I had E.O. Wilson, Nobel Prize winner. Second semester, Walter Gilbert, Nobel Prize winner, founder of Biogen. So I had excellent biology instructors at Harvard that got me, and Walter Gilbert got me interested in recombinant DNA and, genetics. And that from that seed, I knew I was going to be interested one day in biotech.
You go ahead.
Laid the seed for later, and as I practiced law more, I realized I wanted to subspecialize, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and study biology, and then I'm going to take the patent bar. And that was my plan. And I did exactly that. I took the patent bar while I was getting the master's, and I passed the patent bar, became a member of the patent bar, and I was ready to be a patent attorney. And then I had this blink of an eye moment, which I'd like to talk about. I guess that.
Yeah. So I understand that, I guess this was around 2003, that you were coming from a seminar or a meeting of some sort.
I had pretty much graduated from the Penn Biotech Master's program, and I was attending these, seminars that you just go to listen to interesting topics. And it was like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And I was at Leidy Labs at Penn, the biology building, the old biology building. They built a lot of new buildings since that time. Penn is really growing, as is Harvard. I mean, everybody, all these universities are spending money and growing. Anyway, I walked back across 38th Street. My car was parked, headed southwards. And I got in the car, got into the line of traffic, and then, bam, I'm hit from behind.
By a bus?
By a bus. I didn't know it was a bus until about a second. Now, that's not the end of it. Bam, and now I start spinning on the ice.
Oh.
And now I'm hit again on the driver's side. And this collision was worse. And that one, I thought, I'm dead.
Well, and in that moment, I know I talked to you offline about this, but in that moment, it almost seems like you have a chance to see your whole life flash before you. But you said something interesting to me. You said it was more about all of the people in your life that you saw, not your life.
God, I didn't think about me. Honest to God, I thought only about my wife and our three kids. That's all I thought about. I didn't think about me or my life because, I guess because I'm all about duty,
Right.
responsibility. And I just thought, what are they going to do without me? Because I'm going to die. And that's honest to goodness, that 30 seconds when I was convinced that I was going to be done for, that was all I could think about. What are they going to do without me? I'm not going to practice. I'm going to be a patent attorney. And what are they going to do without me doing all that? I spent all this time preparing to switch to things. So that's all I thought
So
about.
so so at that point, I assume you're in the hospital, uh, and your recovery road has got to be long and arduous.
I went into the hospital, the emergency room, but then I went to my physician and got more tests, and they weren't good. It turned out I had very bad cervical neck injuries from C2 to C7
Oh,
herniation,
Lord.
and my L4 and L5 back discs were also herniated, and I had a very serious right leg sciatica, which was painful as heck. And I couldn't walk. I couldn't run. Now, before the accident, I was running 4 to 7 miles every day.
Wow.
And I was benching the NFL combine when I went to lift weights. That was an unbelievable.
Gosh, Art, I get tired driving 4 to 5 miles. So
I was benching 225. I was hitting all the hard weights and play like 3 to 5 games of hoops, with the old guys. And I was just in incredible shape. And after this accident, I couldn't get off the sofa. So my rehab was very long and tedious. I First things first, I had to surrender my law license because of disability and take down my practice because I had no way to practice. My wife was committed to her legal career as an in-house counsel, and she did not want to practice privately. So that was that, and we decided, collectively, it'd be best if I took down my practice. And so I turned in my license based on voluntary disability, which you can do in Pennsylvania, with the thought, well, maybe I'll come back one day. Who knows? And then I downgraded my status at the patent office from patent attorney to patent clerk, which means you could still practice patents, but only at the patent office, which means I could prosecute patents and do things to the PTAB, but not appear as a patent litigator and so forth. Anyway, I didn't do any law at all. For the next 10 years, I had to my way back.
how long was it? So it was a 10-year process to get you to where you felt
It
comfortable
was
walking
not a
again?
tech process. I'm telling you, it was very hard for me to do anything. And let me tell you, it was like 2 steps forward and 1 step back every, and I couldn't exercise right. I mean, I was used to doing all this exercise. I couldn't exercise correctly. I would try to exercise when I was rehabbing, and I'd overdo it. I would try to lift things, and I would overdo it and hurt my back. I mean, everything I did was wrong. Now, what saved me? Okay, a couple of things. First of all, I became much more religious. I mean, I really reverted to my religious roots, and I went to church, and I was lighting candles. I was praying to those icons, and you know, I couldn't stand up in church because of the injury. I would sit in the pews during the whole service, and this actually made me suffer because I really wanted to stand up during the service. It took me 3 to 4 years to be able to stand up during a church service. But the day I was able to stand up during a church service, I could feel the presence of the Lord.
And that is so wonderful. I want to take you back before that moment and tell me at the bottom of the barrel where your psyche was when your professional life has changed, your athletic life has changed, and you're homebound for all intents purpose, right? I mean, you're not able to do anything, more or
Not
less.
really. I mean, and it really, it kind of challenged my masculinity a little bit. Because I was a pretty rough, tough, macho, ex-jock kind of guy. It was a very hard adjustment, but you know, when one door closes, two more open. Is how I started to think. I read through the book of Job, and I realized God sends things, and you have to have faith.
Well, Job was certainly challenged. There's no doubt, and he certainly kept his faith throughout it. And that's a great analogy that you're using there because I think both of us, when my eye problem happened, I know I immediately went into a deep depression and was scared about my future. I too had to retire from teaching and coaching because of the disability, and I was like, who am I now? I felt like my identity was taken away from me. And that sounds like kind of what you felt like during the early part of that as well, that your identity had been taken away.
Yeah, I wasn't so much depressed as I was, searching around for what am I going to do next, and then I realized, well, I have a biology degree now. I guess now I'm a biologist, and I started talking to some folks, and um, I hit it off with a lawyer who was a specialist in biotechnology and also the editor of a journal, and I started writing. About 2 years after the accident, I started writing book reviews for him. They weren't all that long, but there was something I could do at the computer that didn't require, carrying heavy cases to
Didn't
work.
require the physical attributes of other jobs, but you could do it with
Well,
just your
you
mind.
gotta realize in '03, law had not transitioned to computers yet.
Right.
It was papers. And so when you had to go to court, you had to drag these heavy boxes and these heavy bags, to court, and it was physically challenging. Tonight we had file cabinets. If this accident had occurred in 2026, today, maybe I could have continued to practice because everything now is done on computer PDFs. There's no paper anymore.
Do you miss it? Do you miss the patent litigation?
Well, I like patent law. I don't like law, period. I mean, general law, no. The law practice I had was a general practice, but I did a lot of intellectual property too. I prefer intellectual property because you work with scientists, you work with biologists, you work with tech transfer people, you work with accelerators, incubators. We get businesses to start. Like we'll take a nascent technology, see if it's commercially viable, then we'll go to sources of capital, raise capital, do different fundraising rounds. We assemble boards. We decide, how will the company be structured. We get help from the tech transfer office, let's say at Ben or Temple or Drexel. We get help from an accelerator and incubator set up an office. And sometimes I'll work as a fractional uh, consultant. This is what I do now. Work as a fractional IP advisor or both, up to 10 hours a week. And it's fun putting a company together and then seeing if they make it, because if they make it, it's a home run. it's not like profitable,
Right.
but it's
Well, and I shared that kind of creativity, if you will, or concept of putting something together when I was a banker. It was very nice to be able to watch a business, be able to fund something at the beginning, and watch that business grow and be there along the way. Those were the rewarding times that I had as a banker in my 32 years as a banker. So there's some similarities that I share with you on that. But I want to go back to your faith because you said you almost reinvented yourself with the faith, and a comment that you made to me off camera about who you were before this accident and who you are now, and I will share with you now. I think, and I only know you now. I didn't know you then, but now I find you such a humble man, such a nice man, such a caring man, such a philanthropist, a helping man. That's the vibe I get from you, and a almost soft spoken, but I know you mean business, and that's how I see you now. But you said you were a little different prior to that.
I I was not a good person in certain respects before this accident happened. I was a little arrogant. I was a little contentious. I spoke too much. I was not humble, and I was not getting along with everybody that I should have, as I should have. I wasn't collegial enough. I was popular. I was getting elected to different things, but I was a bit arrogant. I think all the success went to my head, and I was making money early and getting elected to a lot of boards early, and maybe the success went to my head. I don't know what, but I got into the drive for wealth, power, and status that often ensnares young people. I was a who's who in America before I was age 40. And I was, a bar association, things elected when I was 35 and doing interesting and important things very early on. I had $1 million verdicts and things like that. But you know what? I wasn't a good person. And, I was very contentious, especially in front of my kids, and they didn't like it. And it was a bad thing. The accident changed me. I realized in a certain way God was punishing me. And this is also part of the book of Job, I think, in a sense, and maybe other parts of the Old and New Testaments that, when something happens, you should take time to reflect upon your path in life and why you're doing what you're doing and what you're doing. And I realized that, you know, it's not money and status and wealth matter. It's family and friends and how you connect to the world that matter, and faith that matters.
And I want to add one thing to that. I want to add, to me anyway, family, of course, is first. Your friends, your faith, all of those things. But it's your experiences. It's not about material things anymore. It's about experiences. You and I were talking about gifts earlier, and uh, I love giving gifts, and it sure sounds like you do too. And I like to give gifts that are thoughtful, that are thought provoking for the person that I'm giving them to. That it's meaningful because I get joy from that, and I sense that you're that type of person now, and maybe you weren't prior. I don't know.
No, I wasn't prior. Now if I go to a doctor's office, I'll bring donuts for the ladies at staff, and I'll bring nice things for the doctors. I mean, we talk. I've really become quite different, and I'm very being humble before the Lord, what does that mean? Well, it means being humble in everyday life, and also to treat everybody, you know, as if you'd walked a mile in their shoes. And that's what it means, isn't it?
Absolutely. Now, had you not had that religious upbringing that you had as a child?
I did. I did. I think though I got away from it a little bit, with my being a very, aggressive trial lawyer. You got to remember I was doing policy debate from age 13 in ninth grade until right through around 2000, 2001, 2002. That's, 73 to 2003, 30 years of doing that.
That's incredible, and for our listeners, something else that Art and I both share that we found out recently is our debate background. I debated starting in sixth grade with doing speech and debate events. All the way through college, I got a small scholarship to go to Texas Tech on debate scholarship, and debated through my undergrad years, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And Art is a incredible debate person. He's also coached some, I believe. Have you not?
I've done a lot of coaching, and I did give back with debating. I got involved with, founding Urban Debate in Philadelphia. But the thing is that it was part of my being contentious and cross-examining people the way I did, was derived from the debate thing, and I couldn't.
Absolutely.
I had trouble turning it off at home. And I had trouble turning it off when I was negotiating, and that was a very bad weakness. And I think the accident forced me to slow down, and it made me realize that, you want to talk with people, first be quiet, listen,
Well,
understand where they're coming from.
what's the old saying? God gave us two ears and one mouth for a reason.
Indeed.
I think I shared a little bit of that. I don't know if it was my blink of the eye moment that made me change, but I think somewhere along the lines in my banking career, I kind of morphed from a person who always wanted to be at the forefront to wanting to learn about everybody and what their experiences were. Um, I really enjoy. I don't care if I go to McDonald's. I talk to the people that wait on me there, and I want to know their story because their story is just as important as my story or your story. It's different. It's a different story, but it doesn't make it right or wrong. It's their story, and because of that, it's special. And and if you treat people with respect, whether they're a janitor or a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, everybody's important. And that's one of the lessons I learned in my banking career from several different mentors. And uh, my faith has helped me with that. And it sounds like that you kind of had that same journey after this blink of an eye moment.
I really did. And over the course of my rehab, I put back together my career by being an editor, being a writer, working a little bit on patent work as an agent with this friend of mine in his office. And, you know, damping down what my expectations were. I think when I first said I was going to be a patent attorney, I was thinking, yeah, I'm going to go to one of these big firms and get a big salary and be a big time patent attorney. That wasn't going to be me anymore. What I was really thinking more was low key. And then I thought, well, you know what? I'm gonna go into biotech, and I'm gonna work more with small companies and see if I can help them grow. And that became my consultancy, which I started around 2010, along with writing and editing. And this is the genesis of the new art, the biologist art. And this was more comfortable for me. I felt better doing this than I did as a lawyer. And I sort of stopped thinking about going back to law because you know what? The new person that I was not going to be happy as a lawyer. I was happier being, kind of the deal making consultant. I was on a lot of committees where we talked about uh, biotechnology and patents, and it was very rewarding because patent people are very intriguing. They're all high level intellectuals, because they're both
Well,
lawyers.
they're interested in the creating of something that doesn't exist yet. So
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
yeah, they're
Go ahead.
innovators, man.
Yeah. So, in the essence of time, I always try to be cognizant of my guest time. It always goes by so much quicker than we think. We're already almost at 40 minutes. I try to keep these around 30 minutes, and you're so interesting and have such a wonderful story. And I'm so grateful that God helped you through this accident. I'm amazed at it, and I'm amazed at all of your accomplishments and your education and art. You were just a fantastic man, and I appreciate your time today. I am going to wrap it up here, but I want you to hang on with me just for a moment, okay? So let me go through the exit, and then we'll get with you real quick. If you like hearing uplifting stories of overcoming challenges in life, click the like and subscribe button that's right below. Perhaps you have a story of your own to share, an accident, sudden loss, PTSD, alcohol, drug abuse, a natural disaster, or illnesses, and you would like to share that journey of overcoming. Please contact me again at the email shown below. I know I can do that through the magic of computers. For consideration for a future podcast interview, I rely on viewers like you to share their stories. Thanks again to TradingCardsMarketplace.com for their continued sponsorship to bring these great stories to all of us. TradingCardsMarketplace.com. Discover, connect, collect. Awaken the collector in you. I want to thank everyone out there, especially my family, our military, veterans, and first responders who put their lives on the line every single day for us. And we can't forget our teachers and our medical professionals who all make the world better, one person at a time. But most of all, thanks to God for all of the blessings in our world. We need to make sure that we concentrate on them every single day. So until next time, for my friends, on behalf of Art and myself, Carpe Diem, seize the day.